I think the main message is that we all need to just rethink what we're doing and how we're behaving, because clearly the transmission of the virus is increasing exponentially, is a word that's being bandied around a lot, which just means it's coming up, faster than we want. And we need to socially distance more. We need to be much more vigilant. There's photographs in the papers today of people standing by banners which say "keep your distance," and they're all crowded together, mingling in huge groups. So we need to understand the reason why a curfew perhaps might be imposed. It looks like it's very likely that bars, pubs, restaurants will no longer be able to be open after 10 p.m. Now, a lot of people will say that's unfair on these venues which have put in place very secure measures to keep small groups of people separate from other groups, and they've done very, very well. The trouble is, alcohol is the factor here. When people drink a lot of alcohol, they forget the rules about socially distancing. They flock together and they lose their inhibitions, and that is what alcohol does. If the pubs and bars were open after 10 p.m. to serve coffee only, you could maybe keep the venues open. But it's alcohol that's the problem. And that's why South Africa actually banned the sales of alcohol completely across the board. That had other consequences, but it was an interesting
except the virus doesn't go to its bed at 10 o'clock.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
it's not
still,
like
it's still
Dracula.
there.
It doesn't
and you
just
know
work
what?
at night.
The pubs used to close, I remember, back in the day at 10 o'clock, and people just used to drink more. They used to drink to beat the bell.
That's right, they did.
So it's about change of attitude as well as just saying, right, it's closing now. But that doesn't mean to say that you drink the same amount or you know.
Yeah. I think what it means is people, by all means go out for a drink, go and have a meal. But remember, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Sure.
Use your brain.
Behave, exactly.
And be responsible.
Exactly.
And, of course, there may be other measures that are announced. It could be that household mixing is restricted. It may be that the 6 different households might not be able to mix together. It might just be 2 or 3.
Right.
We don't know. But that would be a measure that I think would be welcomed by certain doctors.
The whole sort of curfew thing's very interesting, though, isn't it? So, because with a curfew in pubs, well, I guess we're getting closer to Belgium's approach. You mentioned South Africa, but Belgium's approach. A full curfew in one part of the country did successfully reduce cases. Well, Lucy Hough is a reporter in Brussels, and she joins us now. Lucy, thank you for joining us this morning. In Belgium, the rise was getting a bit alarming, so they knew they had to do something. What was the outcome?
Yeah, this was after a particularly serious outbreak of the coronavirus in Antwerp, which is in the north of Belgium. The reproduction rate there was pushing at 2. So these emergency measures were put in place for a month-long period. We had a curfew between the hours of 11:30 p.m. and 6:30 in the morning. So bars and restaurants were forced to close at 11 to give people a bit of time to get home, and that was whether or not you'd finished your pint or your glass of wine at that point. Essentially, the streets were cleared, all businesses closed overnight. There was also a reduction on the number of people you could socialise with. That was cut from 15 to 5, and people had to wear face masks in public. And it is worth saying that in the short term, this really did work. Just 3 weeks after these measures were imposed, that R number fell from 2 down to 0.9. And that then later fell to 0.8 by the end of the month. But it was really just a quick fix. We are seeing increasing numbers across Belgium at the moment, particularly here in Brussels, where I am, but also in Antwerp, where that outbreak was.
Yeah, so actually, as you say, it's interesting because that worked initially, but now the numbers are climbing back up again. Fascinating. Lucy, thank you very much.
Yeah, we are seeing some worrying figures here in...
Yeah.
We are hearing some worrying figures in Belgium.
We are here too.
The R number now increasing over 1, and we're also seeing case numbers pushing 1,500 per day across the country. So yes, some worrying figures, and despite those measures, we have got a meeting of the National Security Council here in Belgium tomorrow to discuss what further measures could be put in place. Here in Brussels, we're asked to wear face masks wherever we go, out in public. And we know that the group that's being particularly affected is the young. The fastest rate of increase is amongst the younger age group between the age of 10 and 20, as well as people in their 20s as well. So certainly this is about balancing the need to keep businesses open, to need to keep the economy alive, but also balancing the health risks of young people being out drinking.
Lucy, thank you so much. Sorry about the delay and all of that. It can sometimes get a bit confusing for me. Thank you very much indeed, Lucy. Great to talk to you. And Hilary, that's interesting, isn't it? And also they're talking about, you know, a couple of weeks ago we were told, get back to work, get back into the office, you know, try and get the economy going. But now it looks like the message is going to be very much work from home if you can.
It's a situation that's changing all the time. So numbers have gone up. If we look at the numbers, look at the graphs that we saw yesterday, it's scary. The numbers are doubling every week. Here we are. We had 3,000 cases at on the 15th of September, way up now. We're predicted going up to 50,000 if there's a doubling every week.
Sure. There was an if in front of that, though.
There
so
was an if in front of that.
Get too alarmed, but at the same time take it seriously.
But that's based on recent data.
Right.
So, you know, it is alarming, and we need to be reminded of that.
No, you're absolutely right. It looks like, though, grandparents might be getting a free pass, if you like.
Well, for informal childcare, so a lot of grandparents will pick up the grandchildren from school so that the parents can be going to work. And that makes sense. You know, they're in the same sort of social bubble, and they will be allowed to do that. It means that the grandparents can see the grandchildren. It means that the parents can go to work. Yeah. So there's a logic to that. And when we talk about balance of risk, that's a small risk and lots of benefit. So the balance of risk is low. So that's good.
That is good. And any news about a vaccine?
No, the news that we have, we saw Andrew Lloyd Webber earlier. He's testing out a vaccine.
It's really interesting, that,
and that's really, he wants to get theatres open. He wants people to be protected, and that's really good. I really admire him for that. So it's the trials are going ahead. It's really good that we hear about precautions that they're taking. There are little hiccups that, you know, people develop a symptom, they're excluded from the trial is halted. It's investigated. If it's nothing to do with the vaccine, it goes ahead. So we're getting there, and there was a hint in the conference yesterday from the Chief Medical Officer that we may have some people able to have a vaccine by the end of this year.
Wow.
That's wishful thinking.
Right.
Hopefully it will happen, but maybe by the middle of next year we might be there with a vaccine, which is safe and effective.
I think what would help us all is if we could see some sort of end to this. I mean, I know you've said, look, knuckle down now, but do you reckon realistically, if we look at 6 months, say,
I think we'll be in a better situation.
Right, OK.
I don't think we'll be out of the woods.
OK.
My personal feeling is that this will take another year.
Wow.
You know, before...
But not living like this, hopefully.
No. I think things will become easier.
Right.
We just have to keep looking at the figures, the hospitalisations and the number of cases and which type of people. Remember, BAME groups are vulnerable, so are the elderly, so are the people with pre-existing conditions. Let's see what's happening. But let's also be patient, be prepared that this is going to affect our lives going forward for quite a long time.
Take action now. Be sensible now.
Flu vaccines are very important. If I've got a moment to say this, the government ambitiously want to vaccinate 30 million people this year. So it's not just the people who are normally eligible, but for people over 50 as well.
Right.
Because what we do know is you get seasonal flu on top of COVID-19, it's really bad news. Anywhere between 2 and 6 times the risk of dying if you get both together. So flu vaccine, very useful to have.
Don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Lorraine on the ITV Hub and all the best clips, compilations and playlists right here on our channel. Just subscribe now and you'll never miss an upload. Click here to watch another video similar to this one, or click here to head to our channel's homepage to explore all of our exciting videos.